Have you heard about what's happening with the Blake Lively, Justine Baldoni case?
Have you ever heard of a Hollywood story so wild it practically begs you not to believe it? Well, buckle up because this whirlwind involving Ryan Reynolds, Disney, and Justine Baldoni is turning into the kind of drama that shakes up entire industries. If you've only seen the charming, wisecracking side of Reynolds, you might be stunned by what's rumored to have gone on behind closed doors. On the surface, this star projects an image of effortless humor and endless grin. But some say that underneath that playful exterior lurks a cunning mind capable of orchestrating deals and double crosses nobody ever saw coming. By the end of this saga, you just might wonder, how real is the nice guy persona Ryan Reynolds built over all these years? It all started as a faint rumor, a meltdown behind the scenes at Disney that no one wanted to talk about out in the open. Initially, the chatter was so faint and disjointed that people brushed it off as the usual Hollywood gossip. Something about a big meeting gone sour, a star feeling undervalued, typical showbiz friction. But then, rumblings of a final straw began circulating. The name Nice Pool popped up in industry whispers, mingling with the even more astonishing claim that Reynolds had been shown the door by Disney executives he'd once seemed so tight with. In those early days of the rumor mill, everything felt murky. Had the meltdown even happened? Was the Nice Pool concept just a wild conspiracy theory? Nobody knew for sure, and that uncertainty only made the chatter grow louder. Before long, the conversation went from faint gossip to a clamoring swirl of accusations, pointing fingers at Ryan Reynolds for unleashing a furious tirade during what was supposed to be a straightforward pitch meeting. The story goes that he and a team of Disney decision-makers gathered to discuss future projects, and somewhere along the line, a disagreement about creative ownership turned explosive. Words were exchanged, accusations flew, and the next thing anyone knew, Reynolds was allegedly storming out of the conference room. What's curious, though, is how quickly Disney seemed to act once the dust settled. Executives who'd long championed Reynolds were suddenly rumored to be shutting down any new deals, freezing ongoing negotiations, and putting the brakes on several collaborative projects. For a major studio that invests serious money in star power, this was no trivial move. The chatter wasn't a casual, "we'll reevaluate later" stance. It sounded more like, "get him out of here, now." If the meltdown was real, the severity of that decision hinted at something truly seismic behind closed doors, something that made them feel they had no choice but to protect their brand image and distance themselves from any potential fallout. People had questions. How could this possibly happen? Ryan Reynolds was the golden goose of comedic superhero flicks, the kind of household name that nearly guaranteed a blockbuster turnout. His collaborations typically raked in bank for studios, merchandise flew off the shelves, and his marketing flair brought extra buzz. Let's face it, his social media presence alone often felt like its own mini PR firm. Yet here was Disney, supposedly slamming the door in his face. Some fans suspected it had to do with corporate politics or personal vendettas. Others speculated that maybe the meltdown was just the tip of the iceberg, that there was something bigger, like a legal fiasco brewing. And that's where Justine Baldoni and the Nice Pool concept enter the spotlight. Nice Pool, by all accounts, started as a quirky comedic project laced with deeper life lessons. Rumor says it was meant to be set around a pool, using a playful environment to explore heavier truths in a lighthearted way. The reported originator of this concept was none other than Justine Baldoni, the actor-director celebrated for heartfelt projects that champion positivity and introspection. Yet at some point, Ryan Reynolds came into the picture pushing a version of Nice Pool he allegedly claimed to have developed. The specifics vary depending on who's speaking, but the gist remains. Baldoni says Reynolds took his idea, pitched it as though it were his own, and cut him out of the deal. That, apparently, sparked Baldoni to lawyer up, collect all the receipts, emails, text messages, brainstorming notes, and prepare to argue that Reynolds effectively hijacked his property. While this might sound like a typical he said spat, it gained momentum once Disney started reacting as though something truly damning lay beneath the surface. Word on the street was that some Disney staffers discovered documentation showing the Nice Pool concept existed in multiple forms before Reynolds ever set foot in the project. Baldoni's name was scattered throughout these files, but official pitch documents for the final concept sometimes mentioned only Reynolds. If that's not suspicious enough, there were rumors about hush-hush side deals, cameo tie-ins with third-party companies, and undisclosed streaming negotiations. Did Reynolds try to bypass Disney's usual legal vetting by cutting his own deals in secret? We don't have an official confirmation, but speculation suggests that if Disney discovered evidence of under-the-table negotiations, it would explain their swift, decisive response. Then came the next shock. Justin Baldoni filed a lawsuit, or so the rumor goes, naming both Reynolds and Disney, to some extent, as parties who benefited from his intellectual property without properly crediting him. The rumor also claimed Baldoni's legal team possessed a paper trail that was virtually impossible to dispute. Some sources claimed this paper trail included text messages in which Reynolds praised Baldoni's original pitch, calling it a gold mine or a game changer, implying he believed it could become a major comedic brand. Other alleged evidence might include behind-the-scenes photos capturing them during their early conceptual discussions. If these exist, it'd be difficult for Reynolds to argue that Baldoni had nothing to do with Nice Pool. Disney's predicament couldn't have been more complicated. On the one hand, Reynolds was a massive star, a proven box office draw, and the synergy between him and certain high-performing franchises had been profitable for everyone. On the other hand, a brand as squeaky clean as Disney can't afford to be named in a high-profile lawsuit over intellectual property theft, or to be perceived as endorsing a star who might have thrown a tantrum so big it involved disrespecting senior executives. The risk to Disney's family-friendly image, plus the potential blow of having top-level decision-makers dragged into court, might have forced the company's hand. If they found even a grain of truth to Baldoni's accusations, severing ties with Reynolds would be the most straightforward way to limit damage. And if the meltdown truly was as incendiary as rumored, they might not have wanted to keep him around in the first place. After the meltdown stories broke, the rumor mill lit up with talk of hush-hush audio recordings, voicemail leaks, and a flurry of internal memos. Some said you could hear Reynolds ranting about how Disney would never own his comedic style, insisting he could bend the rules however he pleased because he was the comedic powerhouse. Others claimed that in these alleged audio clips, Reynolds specifically name-dropped Baldoni, dismissing his contributions and insulting him in ways that underscored a blatant disregard for collaboration. It was the sort of behind-the-scenes behavior that, if proven authentic, would heavily damage any star's reputation, especially one who likes to project a collaborative, amiable vibe. Baldoni, for his part, was described as furious but methodical. He posted ambiguous social media comments about taking a stand against people who try to bully their way through Hollywood. Fans who follow Baldoni closely began reading between the lines, concluding that he was referring to Reynolds. By then, the conflict was no longer a well-kept secret. Industry watchers took note, and so did fans. People who adored Reynolds felt torn, while Baldoni's supporters championed him as the underdog, a man determined to protect his creative vision from a big star's overshadowing influence. Hollywood heavyweights started picking sides or quietly tiptoeing away. Observers noticed that certain big names who had been buddy-buddy with Reynolds, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, for instance, went radio silent, avoiding any mention of the situation. Did that mean they believed the allegations or simply wanted to stay out of the drama? Hard to say. But in an industry where image is everything, any public figure who's friendly with Reynolds might worry about collateral damage if the meltdown saga escalates further. Even Hugh Jackman, famous for his playful banter with Reynolds, seemed suspiciously quiet, sparking endless online speculation about whether he'd distanced himself to avoid implicating his own brand in the fiasco. Meanwhile, Disney watchers pointed out that a corporate giant typically does not cut ties with a major star unless they have very, very good reasons. Fans began to suspect that the meltdown was just the straw that broke the camel's back, and that behind the scenes Disney was dealing with a labyrinth of legal, moral, and image-driven considerations. Some insisted there might be skeletons in the closet from previous projects, with Disney execs quietly enduring difficult negotiations or manipulative tactics from Reynolds for years. The meltdown could have been the perfect excuse to end a partnership that had grown sour. Others believe the meltdown was so outrageous, so insulting to key decision makers, that Disney had no choice but to show Reynolds the exit. Meanwhile, the internet did what it always does best. It turned this entire meltdown, no pun intended, into a comedic free-for-all. Memes popped up poking fun at Reynolds as someone who forgot to put on his public persona in front of the Disney execs. Parody videos spliced together, clips of Reynolds cracking wise during movie press tours with textual overlays calling him out for alleged IP theft. Late-night talk show hosts began referencing the situation in their monologues, turning it into primetime comedic fodder. The joke, repeated often, was that Reynolds might have stolen someone else's entire comedic premise, yet couldn't steal enough self-control to avoid a meltdown in a boardroom. Ouch. Of course, the cynics in Hollywood gave a different perspective. They speculated that these leaks might be orchestrated, possibly by Baldoni or other involved parties, to force Disney into a settlement or co-ownership agreement. After the meltdown allegations, the lawsuit chatter, and the swirl of potential hush-hush NDAs, the stage was set for a all the meanwhile. The question of Ryan Reynolds' next move looms large. A star of his caliber can't just vanish overnight, meltdown or no meltdown. He has fans, endorsements, and a pop culture presence that's tough to stifle. Will he pivot to damage control, release a carefully worded statement, and try to patch things up with Disney behind the scenes? Or will he bet on his comedic charm, play the scandal off as a misunderstanding, and move on to other studios eager for his star power? Some watchers say that if he truly burned a bridge at Disney, other major studios might be hesitant to jump into bed with him without checking behind-the-scenes references. As for Justin Baldoni, he's come across like the underdog in this story, a creative force who stands up for his work. Some already hail him as an emblem of integrity, refusing to let his concept be stolen by a bigger name. Others are more neutral, questioning if perhaps he's overstating his role in Nice Pool or fueling the drama to gain leverage for a bigger payday. Either way, he's clearly at the center of a legal whirlwind that could set a precedent for how studios and stars handle disputes over co-created ideas. If Baldoni successfully proves his case, it might empower others to challenge big stars who appropriate or overshadow their creative contributions. Yet the meltdown chatter isn't done. Internet detectives keep referencing new angles. Was Blake Lively, Reynolds' wife, aware of the meltdown, and did she attempt to mediate? Did she worry about how it might tarnish their philanthropic brand as a celebrity couple who champion charitable causes? Did the rocker Hugh Jackman say anything privately to Reynolds, urging him to calm down and fix the situation before it escalated? So many unknowns remain that each day it feels like new rumors pop up, new speculation takes flight, and the meltdown story grows more epic by the hour. And that's the heart of it. We don't know how deep this rabbit hole goes. If the meltdown was as bad as insiders claim, that means there could be more recordings, more transcripts, and more potential depositions waiting to surface. If the legal case around Nice Pool gains momentum, we might see official court documents listing every shady text and email in excruciating detail. If everything is an exaggeration, perhaps the truth is simpler. A heated argument, a conflict over credit, and a mutual decision by Disney and Reynolds to part ways quietly. The problem is that the meltdown storyline has become a juicy narrative unstoppable in a 24-hour media environment. He might find that no matter how many quips he fires off in future interviews, no matter how many comedic bits he posts online, part of the public will always recall the meltdown that nearly blew his career off course. In the end, it all circles back to a single startling question. Is Ryan Reynolds the victim of a smear campaign? Or did he single-handedly orchestrate his own downfall by gambling on secret deals and pushing the wrong people too far? Only those at the epicenter, Baldoni, Disney executives, and Reynolds himself, know the raw truth. For everyone else, we're left to piece together contradictory leaks, puzzling NDAs, rumored lawsuits, and glimpses of an alleged meltdown that might go down as one of Hollywood's most unexpected controversies. So, as you walk away from this story, remember that there's more than meets the eye in any celebrity narrative, especially when it involves massive power, enormous egos, and big money. If new evidence surfaces, we could see Reynolds fight back publicly, or watch Baldoni unveil a trove of incriminating files that confirm his side beyond any doubt. Maybe Disney will produce internal documentation proving how chaotic the meltdown was, or maybe they'll keep everything sealed to avoid even more bad publicity. Whatever happens, you can bet the internet will swarm the next development like piranhas, hungry for any detail or document that affirms or denies the meltdown of Ryan Reynolds. Until then, the question looms. Could this truly be the star's final act with Disney? Or is the meltdown simply a flashy prelude to a second chapter in one of Hollywood's strangest sagas? Keep your eyes open, because if there's one thing we've learned from Tinseltown, it's that these stories rarely end where you expect. The bigger the star, the harder the tumble. And the more sensational the revelations once everything is exposed. Stay tuned, because we might only be scratching the surface of what truly happened during those fateful closed-door meetings. The meltdown is already legendary in rumor circles, and if any actual legal battle ensues, we'll see if Ryan Reynolds emerges from it with his comedic halo intact, or if his entire empire of humor and quick wit unravels under the unforgiving spotlight of scandal. Until the next revelation drops, that's the saga as we know it. Will more behind-the-scenes evidence appear online? Will Baldoni continue waging his lawsuit until the courts demand Disney's high-ups to testify? Or will some last-minute settlement bury the meltdown story under layers of legal confidentiality? One thing's for sure, the Hollywood rumor mill has rarely been so hungry for answers, and it won't rest until every last secret is out in the open. If you thought you knew Ryan Reynolds, think again. Because in the words of countless insiders whispering throughout Los Angeles, this story is far from over.